Right, good morning everybody. Welcome to our webcast this morning, which we have called The Power of Power BI Part 2, or the sequel, the reboot. So this is the second part of the mini-series that we're doing. This one is very much focused on how to deploy Power BI. The first one was, we were very lucky to have a couple of people from Staffs University, Staffs County Council coming on to talk on our behalf about their journey with Power BI and how it's being used within the organisation. So it was very much more focused on the business benefits and the sort of impact it can have on an organisation. The link for the recording of that session is available, so if anybody would like to see that who hasn't seen it so far, please do shout and we'll make sure we get that over to you. I'd like to highlight a few key messages that we took away, which kind of set the scene nicely, so it'd be good to just go through those again. We looked at the differences between the free version of Power BI and the paid-for version of Power BI Pro. Some of the messages that came through very clearly from staffs were that once they'd implemented Power BI, people stopped to question the information that was being presented. The information then became trusted as an accurate source of information, and if you've got an accurate source of information, you can make accurate decisions based upon that information. What was also seen was that Power BI was then becoming embedded in the day-to-day processes. The decisions they were taking, the direction they were going, the resources that they were deploying was all based upon the information and the views that they were getting from Power BI. The other two things that were pulled out here is, one, it is very much designed to be a self-service tool. So although you will need to give some consideration before you set the tool up, and you will need to give some thought around how you're going to pull that information together and what sources you're going to use, it's very much designed as a self-service tool. And as a result of that, it's very simple and intuitive to set the whole thing up and get going with it and start to share that information and start sharing the dashboards around the organisation if you're on the Pro license. I'd just like to pull out the quotation that we have on here, which is really a mantra that we have at Visual, is that we're helping customers to realise the full potential, leveraging value from investments in Microsoft technology. We're talking about two things really on this webcast. We're talking about leveraging your investment in your enterprise agreement, in licenses that you have from Microsoft. It's ensuring that the licenses you've bought and paid for you're actually using, but we're also talking about leveraging the information you have within your organisation. So moving away from trying to manage your business on Excel spreadsheets to coming up with a much more comprehensive view of the organisation and making those decisions from there. So by way of introduction, which perhaps I should have done first of all, my name's David Hitwell. I'm an Office 365 specialist here at Visual, which covers a whole raft of pieces of technology, from Office 365 to the security elements, to EMS, to the new Secure Productive Enterprise suite. But today we're focusing on Power BI. I'm joined today by Matt Bradley. Matt, would you just like to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, I'm Matt Bradley. I'm an architect at Visual, specialising in business intelligence, analytics and Microsoft's data platform. Lovely,
thanks Matt. So to quickly run through the agenda for today, introductions we have just done. I'm going to give a very brief overview of Visual for those people, of Visual for those people who don't know who they are. We're then going to touch on the deployment approaches for Power BI, looking at a Power BI hybrid deployment, a self-service demo, so that's very much going to take up the bulk of the session. We'll then throw the floor open to questions and answers. We will then touch on licensing and how it fits into the new E5 SKU, although this is all available as a standalone add-on. You can buy that as part of E5, so we'll touch on that. And then Matt will take through some suggested next steps. Bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the instant messaging facility that we have, which looks like the small sort of bubble that you'd see in a cartoon or a comic down in the bottom left-hand corner. Or if you don't feel you want to bring it up in this forum, please feel free to email us at inquiries@visual.com. The phones should all be muted, so we shouldn't have any background noise. And just as a warning, we are recording today's session. So we've had a couple of comments already. Some reference to Arsenal. I hope that's not Arsenal football team as a Spurs supporter here, but we will move on from there. So just a quick introduction to Visual. Visual is a Microsoft-only deployment partner. We only deploy Microsoft technologies. We specialize in Microsoft technologies, and quite uniquely in the marketplace, we deploy across the whole of the Microsoft stack. So that becomes particularly important when you're looking to deploy multiple solutions at any one time, and of course you've got to take considerations around security and identity, etc., that sit around any solution you put in place. We are a tier 1 managed platform partner. We were UK Country Partner of the Year last year, and we have been the finalist for a couple of years before that. Prior to joining Visual, I was at Microsoft myself for 9 years. So our business is split into three broad areas, as you can see. The consulting part of the organisation, where Matt sits, the services part of the organisation, and the solutions part. So just to quickly touch on this, the consulting part is divided into two main business areas. One is called the business group, and one's the technology group. Matt sits within the technology group, and as you can see, that's broken down into different practices, specialising in different solution areas. The business group comes into play when we have large transformational projects taking place, and we'll touch on that in a second. And it's really made up of enterprise architects and project managers, or engagement managers, as we call them here, and people who can see across the whole of the stack and pull different pieces together. So the guys in the technology group will get involved in the larger transformational projects. They'll be pulled in as and when they need to. But if we're just doing point deployments, say come and deploy Power BI or SharePoint or Skype for Business, we will pull in guys from the technology part of the organisation. We also have a services part, which is providing aftercare support. So normally we would support our own deployment, to provide that ongoing support, but we do support other people's deployments, and we would have to go through some kind of rigor up front to make sure that the deployment in place was of a good standard and something that we can see. So we typically engage in some kind of health check around that. The area we are moving to is into solutions, so developing our own IP. Most of that is based upon Office 365. We are developing we have a suite of products called Minerva 365, and included in that are things like room booking systems and case management systems and that kind of thing. So people who are interested in that, we can provide information. But we also have some industry specific applications as well. The two I'll pull out around the legal sector, child protection, youth justice, all that kind of thing. And also we're developing around retail as well, which is called a KIN. All of those should be available to see at Future Decoded if people are coming along to the Microsoft show at the beginning of November, I believe, where we are one of the headline sponsors there as well. So to touch on the transformation piece, we typically work in three main areas here. We do deploy point pieces of technology, as I said. That's that's kind of our bread and butter. But we are seeing a big move to people coming onto these big transformational projects. So they normally fall into three areas. One is connected business, where Power BI arguably would sit most. This is about making sure that people are presented with the right information on the right device at the right time. So people have the access to the information when they need it. They don't have that information to turn up. End user computing typically come about if people want to renew the desktop or introduce mobile flexible working. So it's ensuring that the productivity suite, AD, the security, etc., that sits around it is in place. And the last one we see is around optimized service vision. So this is around the data center piece, and it's ensuring that the solution you have in place, the service that you're providing to end users, is right. And the answer to that may be it is in the cloud, or it may be a hybrid deployment, or it may be an on-premise. So we very much take a view of what's right for an individual customer. So we're kind of touching on three major pieces of work: the desktop, the information piece, and the data center piece as well. So just wanted to give a very brief brief introduction to Rizal and what Rizal do. At this point, Matt, if I could hand over to you, the floor is yours.
Thanks, David. So let me just advance the slides here. So I'm going to talk about, let me just see if I can get the slides back working. Deploying Power BI today. So there are three main approaches to deploying Power BI, and of course you can deploy all three. Usually one or two are a good fit for an organization, but you can see these here in this slide. So we've got very much self-service BI that Power BI supports, and we've split that into business-led self-service BI and IT managed self-service BI. So business-led self-service BI is where the business deploy Power BI, they use it to analyze the data that's available in the organization, internal data, external data. They have that freedom to collaborate and publish reports within the organization. So if we think back to the previous webcast for Staffordshire County Council, they're very much at this stage where the business are producing data sets based on the many government data sources that are out there. They're pulling in data from the surveys that they do of the general public, asking how life is in Staffordshire and so on, and bringing that all into Power BI, joining it together and publishing those insights in the Power BI online service. So what tends to happen within that business-led scenario is people want to analyze more and more data, and using the client tools, pulling in that data from the internet, you very quickly get to the point where you're struggling to analyze that data based on client tools. So the IT managed scenario is very much where an IT function or a business intelligence function would create a data warehouse or organize a cleansed data source, which are then consumed by the business. So the business creates the reports, and IT or business intelligence function provides the data and that semantic layer on top of the data, such as analysis services or OLAP database. So the final approach is corporate or enterprise BI, and this is where an MI team, a BI team, create the reports from a cleansed data set, typically a data warehouse. These are what are commonly called canned reports, and these are published out to the organization. Security is managed around these reports, so only certain users can see certain data sets or certain rows in those data sets. And in this scenario, IT manage all aspects of the solution. So thinking back to Staffordshire County Council, one of the things we're working with them on is moving more to a managed approach where we take those data sets, we use Azure services such as Azure SQL database. We have a virtual machine with SQL Server integration services, which is a tool for extracting, transforming and loading data to a data warehouse or a database, and providing those larger data sets within a database that they can then consume within Power BI. So you can see at the bottom of the slide there, obviously IT involvement and control increases as we go towards the right. So some of the challenges that we can get with the business-led approach is that with that freedom to innovate, we don't have that single source of truth, that cleansed version of data within an organization. So there's some challenges with that approach, but it's a great way to enable people within an organization to explore data and develop their own insights and share those with teams. So typically what happens with these three deployment scenarios is the reports often start off business-led. Over time, the reports then become critical to the business. The data may move into an IT managed scenario, and eventually to an enterprise BI team. It may turn into a strategic report. So what tends to happen is those strategic reports, or those ones that are critical to the business, tend to then move to the right there and to be managed more by an enterprise BI team. So in terms of deploying Power BI, it supports the three scenarios. We can create the canned reports, deploy those to the organization. We can use other services available within Microsoft Azure to produce cleansed data sets for consumption by the business, or we can just let the business have free rein and create the reports that they need and insights that they need. So the typical hybrid deployment of Power BI, on the left-hand side, we have all of our data sources. These might be on-premises, data warehouses. They might be cloud-based data sources, government data sources in the case of Staffordshire County Council. These are then extracted and loaded into the Power BI tools. So we have Power BI Desktop, which is the main authoring tool, and I'll show you that in a moment and go through a kind of end-to-end demo of this, where we pull the data in, produce our reports and dashboards, and then we publish those out to the cloud, to the Power BI service. The same can be done through Excel. We can create our insights in Excel and also publish those to the Power BI service to share those with colleagues. At the bottom there, we've got the Data Gateway service. So this is a service that comes with Power BI that enables you to refresh your data within your Power BI reports. So if you think back to the previous webcast, for the data refresh for the out-of-the-box kind of free version of Power BI, I think it was 3 times a day you can refresh your data from the data sources, and I think the pro version is 7 or 8. It could be more. I'd need to double check that. But that's how once you've published your reports in Power BI, you can use the Data Gateway and install that on your on-premises network to be able to refresh your data and also directly query your data sources from Power BI. So once you have your reports, dashboards in Power BI, they're obviously consumable through the browser. You can consume those using the apps on mobile devices. It's possible to share Power BI reports and dashboards externally with other customers. You can publish the data to a public website or a blog. And you can also integrate Power BI into your applications, and there's an API available for developers to do that. So I mentioned this whole live connection versus imported data. So just to give you an understanding of where the data sits in Power BI and how that works. So I publish my dashboard, my report to Power BI. The data goes with the dashboard and reports into the Power BI service itself, and that is restricted by the limitations of the free and pro license. So within the free license for Power BI, you get up to a gig's worth of data that you can store in Power BI. So that's compressed as well, so you get a lot more in there, obviously depending on what your data looks like and how compressible it is, but typically you get a lot more in than a gig's worth. For the pro version, this is per user, by the way, so you get a gig per user. For the pro version, I think it's 10 gigs per user, but that's all available on powerbi.com. So if you import your data into Power BI, this is a good way to augment your data with other data sources, join them together. You can perform additional calculations on the data that don't exist in the data sources. I've mentioned there that the data needs to fit into the maximum Power BI size from an embedded data model. There's also a natural language query service within Power BI itself, and you need to use the data import in order to use the natural language query service, and we may have a moment to take a quick look at that during the demo a little later on. So live connectivity is where the data is frequently updated in the source typically. So when I view my report in Power BI, I don't want to see data that's a couple of hours old. I want to see the data as it looks right now. in that case, you need to use live connectivity, and you also need the Pro license to use the data gateway for on-premises live sources. Higher data volumes, so if you're exceeding the limit of the Power BI free, then you'd need to buy a Pro license. Also, within live connectivity, you are also able to use the row-level security feature in Power BI. So if you have a report, say, that splits data out, maybe sales data out into several regions of the UK. So maybe certain people can only see data in the north, and other people can only see data in the south. Then that's a good scenario where you might use row-level security to restrict people from seeing data from other regions. So that's it for slideware. Obviously, I didn't want to use too many slides because I know we promised everybody at the last webcast that we'd actually show everybody how it works and go through an end-to-end demo. So I'm just going to do that now. I'm going to switch to my desktop and present my screen here. So hopefully everybody's seeing that. Let me just check that you are. Great. Perfect. So if anybody isn't seeing my desktop, please say so in the chat. And I'll try and fix whatever's wrong with it. So this is the Power BI desktop tool. It's free. You can go and download it today at powerbi.com. You just have to put your email address in and install it on your desktop or laptop or whatever. So what I've got here is I've downloaded some data. So what we're looking at is that whole business-led self-service BI scenario here, where I'm going to go and I'm going to get some data from the cloud, load that into Power BI, visualize it in Power BI, and then publish my visuals to the Power BI service where I can share that with my colleagues. So I've gone to the Office for National Statistics site, and they've got some interesting data around internet sales and internet retail sales as a proportion of overall retail sales. So there might be, say, a business question, which is, how does our internet sales growth compare with overall retail sales, internet online sales?
Matt,
yep.
I think everyone's having problems seeing your screen.
Oh, let me just have a look.
Try resharing that, please. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look. So people saying it's still loading. Let's have a go. Present desktop. So it says it's currently presenting. Is anybody able to confirm that they can actually see it? Okay, good. So we do have people it's working for. Okay. Okay, so it sounds like the majority there can at least see. If people are having trouble, it might be worth attempting to rejoin the webcast, or alternatively, the webcast is being recorded, and a marketing team will send out a link to the recording after the webcast.
Well, I've suddenly got it as well, Matt, so hopefully that's cured it for everybody. Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. So, well, hopefully everybody can see that now, and or at least everybody's catching up. So what you should see is Power BI Desktop. When you start the desktop up, there's some really interesting YouTube videos you can go and watch. Certainly the tutorial around Facebook analytics, if you have a Facebook account, is an interesting one to go through. You can see how many likes you get, how many shares where people have shared your posts. Obviously, from an organizational an enterprise perspective, that's an interesting one as well. If you have a Facebook presence and you want to analyze some of that data in Facebook and share those insights within your company. So really nice little tutorial there that I would encourage people to have a look at if you've never used Power BI before, and you also have Facebook, because you've got some ready-made data there that you can start sharing. So I've been to the ONS website, got some internet sales data, so I'm just going to click the Get Data button. So this is where I get to choose my data source. Now, you'll see here, hopefully, there's a huge range and growing range of data sources that are available in Power BI. Google Analytics is a popular one. A lot of people use that to track clicks on websites, but they don't necessarily share the insights from all the Google Analytics within the organization. So that's a really great one to hook up to Google Analytics and share that data within your organization. As you'd expect, a lot of Azure sources. I know some of our customers use MailChimp. There's a beta source there. So many and a growing list of data sources available. So we're just going to use plain old Excel today. So I'm going to hit Excel because I've downloaded the internet sales data into Excel here. So I'm just going to open that workbook. So Power BI's analyzed this workbook, and see if I dare show you that workbook in Excel here, and hopefully the screen sharing is keeping up. You'll see that there's several worksheets. Obviously, it would take quite a bit of time to go through all of these and load them all up into Power BI, but I'm just going to pick on the internet sales today. So since 2011 here, I can see average weekly value for all retailing, and also average weekly value for internet retail. So I can see that comparison between all retailing and internet retail as well. And also what's interesting is the internet sales as a percentage of total retail sales. So I'm going to attempt to pull this data into Power BI. So I'm going to choose the internet worksheet. Then you can see a preview of that data over on the right hand side. Now, it's not in a great format at all for analyzing in Power BI, so I'm going to have to do some transformation on this particular data source before we load that into Power BI. So I'm going to hit the edit button here. So this launches the Power BI query editor, where I'm able to transform this data into a format that's going to be good for analysis within Power BI. So you can see, hopefully, that there are quite a few blank rows in there. So I've got quite a few columns with null in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove my blank rows. So I'm going to go up to the ribbon here, and I'm going to select Remove Blank Rows. So that's cleaned this up somewhat. As you can see on the right-hand side here, I'm starting to build up a series of applied steps to this document that are stored within the Power BI document itself. So if ever I need to refresh this data source, it will apply exactly the same steps. So if next month the ONS produce October's data, I can download that, and then assuming it's in exactly the same format as it is this month, I can apply the steps and just load the latest data into Power BI. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove a few more rows here. So I'm going to get rid of the top row because that's not very interesting to me. So I'm going to remove the one top row. Now I'm going to use the first row as my column headers here. So I've got the average weekly value for all retailing. So that's set my column headers in the first row. I'm going to remove another row because that's just not interesting and doesn't provide us with any data. So the next thing, so we have our data kind of looking a bit more like we need it now. We've got some columns over here on the right hand side, so let's just get rid of those. They're all null that have come through from the data source. Let's remove those columns. So I've now got my 3 data columns. I need to sort out my dates now. So there's a useful function in Power BI. I'm just going to select my year column here. So hopefully you can see at the beginning of the year I've got the year number, and then for the rest of the year I've just got null in this column. So there's actually a very useful transform function in here, which is fill down. So if I select that, hopefully you'll now see that it's filled the year down from 2006, 2007, and so on. So I've got the year and the month. Now, the next transformation, I just need to build this year and month together and merge these columns, so I've got a date that I can work with in Power BI. So I'm just going to select these first two columns here, and I'm going to see if I can find the merge columns on the ribbon. So there that is. So I've hit merge columns on the ribbon up there. So the separator, I'm going to use a hyphen. I'm going to call my new column date and hit OK. So that's merged my year and month columns. Now what I need to do is just set the data type for this column. I'm going to choose, in fact, I'm just going to choose date for that. Will it do that? Let's try that there. Great, so then that's now transformed that column into a date, a year, month, and it's just chosen the first day of the month as the day there for the date. Okay, so that's looking pretty good now. I think just see if we need to do any further transformation. So this column at the moment is appearing as text, so I'm just going to transform that particular column into, we know that it represents an amount in pounds, so I'm going to choose fixed decimal on that, fixed decimal on that, and within my internet sales as a percentage of total sales, oops, I'm just going to choose a decimal number on that one. So I think we've pretty much done now in terms of the steps. So just again to highlight, you'll see the steps appear on the right hand side. So what's really nice in terms of looking at how the data is transformed is I can click on any of the steps in the applied steps here and gradually see my data set build up. So if there's something that you need to debug or go back and have a look at, you can see how your data looked when we just promoted the headers, say there. You can remove steps, reconfigure them. Obviously if I reconfigure an earlier step, it then has an impact on subsequent steps in my applied steps over here. So this is all about that data transformation, getting your data into the right shape for analysis. I'm going to call my data set here, I'm going to call it ONS Internet Sales, and go back home and close and apply that. So that's going to now load that data into Power BI. So we can see that Power BI is split up into three here. We've got the canvas for generating your reports. We've got the actual data set that I can go and have a look at here. I can do further modeling, such as the role-based security that I mentioned earlier on. So if I only want somebody to be able to see data from, say, 2010 onwards, I could filter that and create roles based on the data set. I can add calculated columns. I can create new measures and calculations on the data. So there's a lot of modeling that I can do in here. And finally, what the data relationships tab allows me to do here is I can load additional data sets. So maybe I want to load a data set with my own internet sales and join that up with my ONS internet sales by date. And so I can join the two data sets together and produce them together on a chart. So this is where I can model that data and create relationships between all my data sets. So for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to load one data set in here, but I just wanted to highlight that the capability within Power BI and what you can actually do in here. It's not just about loading a single data set in here. There's a whole host of additional capability for modeling your data. So right, let's have a look at this data and see if we can visualize it. So let's have a look at, let's get dates, my internet sales. So what it's done here is attempted to summarize the data by year. So actually we don't want it to do that because it's already average anyway. So we can see that we've got a bar chart, so we can change this on the fly to a line chart. So going back to, it actually appears to have more data than I expected. So it goes back to just before 2008. We can see the growth of retail sales as internet sales as a percentage of retail sales here over time. And I think what's clearly visible is the Christmas effect in here. So if I look at, say, let's go to November 2015 rather. I can see that as a percentage of all retail sales, we've got 15% there in November, and that drops down to 14% in December. So quite an interesting data set, and certainly if anybody's involved in retail, what's exciting there are the opportunity to see the growth as a proportion of retail sales that internet sales have had. So we can highlight that actually by adding a trend line on here. So there we go. We can see the trend lines being added to the chart. Of course, if we want to have a look at some of the other data, so if we take the average weekly sales again, and I think, is this one the, this is for all retailing. So we can see, and let's just again make that, oops, didn't want to do that. Let's change this one into a line chart. Just to highlight, large number of visualizations available, maps, integration with Bing Maps, pie charts as you'd expect. Also, you can import your own custom visual if you have a development team that want to develop their own visual, or you can go to visuals.powerbi.com where the community have published custom visuals. There's some really interesting and very handy visuals available at powerbi.com. So there's a Gantt chart visual which is really good for looking at what people are working on when people are free, and producing reports and dashboards around that. So just to go end to end then, so I've got my data here, I've produced my insights, I can put more charts, I can put tables on here, I can add some commentary, I could add additional pages to this report, but at that point I'm ready to publish this to the Power BI service and share it with my colleagues. Of course, I could just save this file, and as it saves as a .pbix file, and I could just email it to a colleague. They can open it up if they have Power BI desktop installed, and it's possible to share it that way. Again, as the data set itself grows in size, that form of sharing or just becomes much more cumbersome, and you'll want to publish to the Power BI service. So just to highlight again, this is all free Power BI that I'm using here. If you go to powerbi.com and register, you can start using that today and doing exactly what I've done here and following these steps. So I'm just going to put ONS retail sales and save that Power BI report here. So I'm ready to publish. I've got a handy publish button here. So I can publish. I'm going to publish this to my Visual Power BI. Now we've got some groups available within Visual, so I could share that with my colleagues that are a member of the group. So I've got my architect friends here. We've got BI and analytics group within Office 365 and the data platform team. But I'm just going to keep this to myself for the time being and publish it to my own workspace. So that's now contacting the Power BI online service. I'm going to click open it in Power BI. I'm going to log in here now. Just to highlight one of the considerations for deployment of Power BI. So within Azure itself, there's a service called Azure Active Directory, and this is where all the user accounts for Power BI are stored. Now, what Visual have done is we've integrated our own on-premises Active Directory with the cloud Azure Active Directory. So all of our on-premises identities have synchronized with the cloud. So what that means is I can use my on-premises identity to log into Power BI. You can set it up and have a separate password for Power BI or a .onmicrosoft.com account. It's just much more convenient and easier to share with your colleagues if you've done that synchronization with Azure Active Directory. And of course, if you need any assistance or help with that, I do know a Microsoft consultancy in the North Midlands around the Staffordshire area that would be more than happy to help with that. So I'm just going to log in there as Matthew Biardo at visual.com. So I've come into the Power BI online service. Hopefully we'll see our ONS retail sales. So this is exactly how my colleagues would see it, and they'd of course get full interactivity in here. If we were able to drill in and drill out of this data, they could do that. If there were additional pages, they can do that. They could pin this visualization to their own dashboards and share it with other people within the organization. So we can see here in the online service that Power BI is split into three. We have dashboards that are available, reports. So dashboards are pinned visualizations from reports. So if you've produced a report like our internet sales here, we think that a visualization is going to be really useful, and we want to see that as part of one of our dashboards. We can pin that, and I'll see that in my dashboard every day for retail sales. There's also a data sets section down here. So if I want, I can go back to my ONS retail sales data set. I can actually author reports and dashboards online. I can edit. If I've shared a report with somebody, they have the capability to edit that, change it, republish it. So this is all this collaboration capability that comes with the business-led Power BI. So just to highlight a couple of other pieces of capability within the Power BI online service, we've got the data gateway that I talked about. So this is where you can download that service that enables you to connect back to your on-premises data sources and securely refresh data between on-premises and the cloud-based Power BI service. There's a publisher for Excel where you can analyze reports further in Excel. So if you've got a complex data set, you're looking at a dashboard or a report, and you'd actually like to download the data and look at that in Excel, there's a plugin to do that. There's also the Power BI for mobile, so apps for Android, iOS, and Windows, as you'd expect. You can download and view your reports in there. So just to also look at some capability that's available in Power BI, and this is the ability to ask natural language questions of your data. So we can try this actually. If we try it on our ONS retail sales, just to see what we get back. It's let's publish to a new dashboard. It's not a particularly interesting data set for natural language query, but let's just going off piste here just to give you a sense of how this works. So I've just pinned that particular visualization to a dashboard. We can see that now. I'm able to click through on here down to the actual report and see the original report there. But it's on the dashboard where I can ask questions of my data. So I can say show internet sales in March 2016. So what it's attempting to do now is answer the question that I've asked, the English language question. It looks at the data and it attempts to provide the most appropriate visualization. Now, for this particular data set, it's decided, look, let's just show the figures themselves. But this is a great way for non-technical people to explore the data. So you can imagine asking, how many widgets did my organization sell yesterday? It's really flexible in terms of how you can use this capability to explore your data. If you're not happy with the visualization that's come back, so in fact, let's try show sales. See if I can edit my query here in 2016 by month. So hopefully that's going to come back with a oops. This is the consequence of going off piste here. Right, so I think it's still there. We go. It was still thinking about it. So we've got the internet sales in 2016. Maybe I want to change my visualization here, and I'd prefer to see that on a line chart. So this is where I can actually adjust the visualization that Power BI has shown me and make changes to that and get the visualization as I need it. When I'm happy with what Power BI is showing, I can then pin my visualization to the dashboard. See, something's happened here now. This will teach me. So I'm just going to exit Q&A and ignore that. But that's what Q&A is all about, being able to explore and pivot around your data and get some insights from that. So finally, one of the things I'm just going to show you that's really helpful to some of our customers. What I can do now with this particular visualization is I can publish this to the web. So I could share this on my public website. I can put this in my blog. Public sector organizations, as certainly the ones I've spoken to, get a lot of freedom of information requests. So some of them are looking at this as a way to short circuit some of those requests. You know, have a look at our website. The data's out there already. So I'm just going to create my embed code here and publish this. So it's given me a link that I can send in an email, or I can paste into a blog. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in the chat. So if everybody wants to click on that, you should be able to see I'll do that myself to double check it works. You should be able to see the report and also get interactivity. So you can have a look at the data that's in there and play with that. So a really nice way to share data externally for organizations. So that's kind of the end of my demo. Hopefully that gives people a sense of Power BI end-to-end. In this particular scenario, I've taken a data set from the cloud. We've transformed that in the Power BI desktop. We've published that to the online service, and then we've also then published that externally, and we could incorporate that in a website, or I could email that to an external contact that does not have Power BI access. Incidentally, I could share this externally with a customer or a contact if they already have deployed Power BI or they have Power BI free. Then I can share this with them directly in through an email through Power BI. Obviously, there are some considerations for doing this. If you're looking at sensitive internal data, that you wouldn't want to share this online, because everybody on the internet will now be able to access this link, as some of you may have done from the text chat there in the in Skype for Business. So that's it. Deploy Power BI. Go to powerbi.com. Sign up for free. Honestly, everything that I've done here today is part of the free version, and Yep, sign up. If you have any problems, please feel free to contact us, and we'll see what we can do.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Matt. That's perfect. A couple of people, I think, were continuing to have problems seeing the demonstration. I think they're okay with the slides, but I think they struggle with the demonstration. So we will be sending the link out afterwards with a recording of this, but we're more than happy if people want to get in touch with us, and we fix a one-on-one session with people to take them through it and show the demonstration. Or if they want specific features they're interested in, then please do get in touch. Matt, I think you're about to put the slides back up. We have a couple of questions which I will read for people in case they can't see it. So the first one we have, Matt, is from Mark, and it says, is the Power BI online version under the Pro license?
So the Power BI online is available through Pro and free. So everything that I did today, that you saw today, is available through free. So if you want to create what's called a content pack, so this content packs are the way you distribute reports in your organization. From if you have canned reports, that kind of enterprise BI scenario, then you're looking at having a Pro license for that. But Power BI Online is available in both Pro and free. So actually, and maybe I can go back and share my desktop again. One of the let's have a look. Just going to present my desktop here again. So one of the things that we can do in Power BI, close that down. Hopefully everybody can see my desktop. Let's just have a look. Currently presenting. So if I click on Get Data in Power BI, there's a whole host of content packs from online services. So you can actually bring data into Power BI without using Power BI Desktop. So if you use any of these online services, you can start pulling data from them today straight into the Power BI online service. So again, Google Analytics is a popular one there. As you'd expect, a lot of the Microsoft Azure and online services such as Project and CRM are there as well.
Okay. We have a question from Daniel. Say, for example, a Power BI developer has a Pro license and creates a dashboard using row-level security and or a gateway. Would the consumers they share the dashboard with also require a Pro license? Or would a standard free Power BI account be sufficient?
So in that scenario, the consumer would also need a Pro license. If somebody with a free license attempts to view a report or dashboard that includes Pro capability, then they'll get a message saying you need a Pro license in order to view this. So in that scenario, if we used row-level security and we use the gateway, the data gateway to bring data in, say from an on-premises data warehouse, and as a free license user went in to look at that dashboard, then it would say to me, sorry, you can't see this.
Okay. Question for Mark, just I think there's a follow-on. Can you send us a link to the online version, please?
So the let me just. Oh, why am I typing that in the browser? I'll put that in the chat now. So I'll put. Oh, hang on a second.
There we go.
So if you go to powerbi.com, you have to register with powerbi.com at powerbi.com, and then you'll be able to log in to the Power BI service. So you just go to powerbi.com and log in there.
Okay. A question from Tricia. Can Power BI be used as a performance management tool, and can we include targets?
You absolutely can. So there's a visualization there that enables you to set targets. There's a visualization that gives you that whole traffic light red, amber, green, to look at key performance indicators and how you're doing at a glance. That's all in there. So it's a really great tool for creating a performance dashboard in Power BI.
Okay. Further question for Daniel. Do users require an Office 365 account to access Power BI dashboards created by somebody with an Office 365 subscription, or is a standard Power BI account sufficient?
So if you haven't deployed Office 365 today, you should be able to go to Power BI and sign up for your organization. If your organization has deployed Office 365, then your Office 365 administrator may have prevented you from signing up for additional services like Power BI. So it'll be a case of going to your Office 365 administrator and asking them to add the Power BI free service. So if you go to powerbi.com, you go through the wizard and it says, sorry, you can't sign up, please contact your administrator. It's usually because your Office 365 administrator has set the setting that means you can't sign up, and the licenses have to be applied by the Office 365 administrator, or your organization's deployed something called ADFS, Active Directory Federation Services, and that's part of the whole synchronization of identity from on-premises to the cloud.
Okay, fantastic. Any further questions? I know we've only got a couple of minutes left. I shall leave that running. We'll have a very quick look at the licensing. We have a question from Daniel. I know we have two, actually. We have Power BI available. However, we're sharing external customers in mind. Would they need an Office 365 subscription, or could they just use a Power BI account?
They could use a Power BI account, so you can share with other customers as long as if you share a report that you've created with free capability and your customers sign up for a free account, then you'll be able to share. If you share a report with pro capability in it, such as the row level security that we mentioned, refresh schedule that's more than 3 times a day, and so on, then you share the report with them. They'll get a message saying you need Pro in order to view this. So if you have Pro and you share a Pro report, then the recipient also needs a Pro license.
Okay. Question from Steve, who I think I've met before, actually. How do we connect into an Oracle database?
So the Oracle's available as a source, certainly an ODBC source from the Power BI desktop. So if you go in there and hit Get Data, you should be able to connect up to an Oracle database. In fact, it is. I'm just looking now, actually, and it's there as a Oracle database is there as an option within Power BI to get data. So we've got Oracle, in case anybody's wondering, IBM DB2, IBM Informix, MySQL database, Sybase, Teradata, and so on. There's a few more in there.
Okay. Question for Mark. You mentioned Azure Active Directory and domain accounts earlier. Does this only work with Office 365?
No. So if you didn't want to deploy Office 365 and you were just interested in Power BI, you can absolutely do that. If you wanted to synchronize your on-premises identity with Azure Active Directory to be able to log into Power BI using your corporate credentials, you can do that. So you'd just get Power BI, you'd log into Azure, you'd need to then set up the sync between on-premises and Active Directory, and Azure Active Directory. Of course, once you've done that, you'd be in a great place then to deploy Office 365 in the future if you needed to do that.
Okay, one last question, I promise. Says Daniel, you mentioned earlier about data consumption, i.e. 1 gig per free account. Is that for the person showing the dashboard or the consumer of the data, or an overall limit for both consumption and dashboard distribution?
So the limit is a per user limit. So for a single user, I have a gigabyte for the free version. I have a gigabyte per user, and for the pro version, it's 10 gigabytes per user. I'll put that link in the chat actually. It shows you the what you get with free and what you get with the pro version. So that gig is per user. So if I've included my ONS internet sales data. If I just keep loading up more and more data sets and more data into Power BI, I have a gig limit. If I then share my dashboard with another user, that doesn't count against their limit. They have another gig limit themselves. That makes sense. It's per user.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Matt. Look, thanks everybody for some great questions today. It's been a great interactive session. We have run out of time, so we'll quickly rush through these last couple of slides. Do appreciate people have got to move on. Just wanted to put this one up around E5, just to sort of show you where Power BI Pro sits within the E5 license. As you can see, it sits in the box in the middle there. So you can buy Power BI Pro on its own, or you can buy it as the sort of what they're calling additional workloads suite in Microsoft. And that it comprises of Power BI Pro and Delve Analytics. And then on the right-hand side, there's additional security features, particularly looking at targeting ransomware. Is a big set of conversations we're having in a minute. So if you're having issues with ransomware, come and speak to us about advanced threat protection and security management. And then on the left-hand side, we have the Skype for Business pieces that are in there. The major one in there is Cloud PBX. So if you want to move away from an on-premise PBX solution, or in fact, if you have Skype on premise, you want to move that into the cloud to sit alongside all your other Office 365 workloads, then that's a conversation worth having, as well as PSTN conferencing. So if you have something like WebEx in place for audio conferencing, this is an alternative whereby it's priced on a per user per month basis, so you can use it as much as you like. Obviously, had to rush through that a little bit, so please get in touch if you have any further questions around that. Matt, if I can just quickly hand over to you, just as suggested next steps. Obviously, the first one, if you have any questions, email us at inquiries@visual.com. But the other couple of points you might want to pull out on, Matt.
Okay, yep, thanks, David. So just a couple of standard engagements if people are interested that Visual offer. So we have a one-day architectural design session. So this is typically where one of our consultants will come and we'll talk around data platform, data analytics, the wider offering, if it's appropriate, around Cortana Intelligence that's available from Microsoft. And that's very much tailored. So if people are interested, for example, in moving on-premises data warehouse workloads into the cloud and the consequences of doing that, then we can talk specifically around that. If people are using SharePoint on premises and they want to integrate the BI tools and look at what's available and how that would work for them, then we can also cover that. So that's really a tailored day. Of course, if you want to just cover everything and look at the whole gamut of tools and available from Microsoft, both in the cloud and on premises, we can try and cover as much of that as we can during that day as well. So in terms of Visual's data platform consultancy, we have Power BI proof of concept consulting engagement, so a short engagement where we can work with you to create a dashboard, a report based on a data set that you have, and deploy that within your organization, maybe sit with some of your staff to understand how Power BI works and how we create dashboards and reports in there. We absolutely create data warehouses, big data stores. So certainly on premises, we like Kimball methodology for data warehousing. Big data stores and particular data lakes these days are interesting for semi-structured and structured data. Lots of opportunities for machine learning analytics, and some more standard engagements for SQL Server platform deployment, so high availability scenarios, modernization of your SQL Server if you're on old versions, and optimization of SQL Server itself. And last but not least, we also have our business group consultants that can talk to organizations and put together a business intelligence or data platform strategy for you, and based on a certain number of workshops that would take place within an organization to understand your requirements. So that's a whistle-stop tour of our standard engagements.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Matt. We've run out of time. If people do have questions, thank you for hanging on and running over. I assume that was of interest. We had some great deal of questions today as well. So thank you, Matt. Thank you for everybody attending. Please feel free to get in touch. As I said earlier on, we'll be dropping an email out anyway with a copy of the recording and just sort of a summary of the call. But thank you very much for everybody's time, and we will hopefully speak to you very soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.